Commander Zarath of the Kytherian hegemony stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Void Sovereign, her crystalline blue eyes scanning the tactical displays that showed the small blue-green world rotating peacefully in the darkness ahead. Earth hung in space like a vulnerable jewel, seemingly unaware of the massive fleet that had just emerged from hyperspace at the edge of its solar system. Her elongated fingers, each ending in delicate but deadly claws, traced patterns across the holographic interface as she studied the preliminary scans. Initial reconnaissance confirms the intelligence reports, Commander, announced her tactical officer, Lieutenant Vextar, his scaled reptilian features reflecting the amber glow of the command displays. The planet shows no significant defensive installations. No orbital platforms, no fleet movements, no energy signatures indicating advanced military preparations. Their technology appears primitive by our standards. Zarath's expression remained carefully neutral, though something nagged at her consciousness. In her 3 centuries of military service, she had learned to trust her instincts, and those instincts whispered warnings even as the data suggested an easy conquest. The Kytherian hegemony had expanded across 17 star systems through calculated aggression and superior technology, but never had they encountered a species so apparently defenseless yet rumored to possess such fierce determination. What of their population centers? She inquired, her melodic voice carrying the authority earned through countless battles. Scattered across multiple continents, concentrated in what appeared to be urban clusters. No centralized command structure that we can detect from this distance. Their communications are primitive electromagnetic radiation, easily monitored and disrupted. Vextar paused, consulting another display. Commander, if I may speak freely, this seems almost too simple. The bridge fell silent except for the low hum of the ship's systems and the gentle whisper of recycled atmosphere. Zarath had been thinking the same thing. The hegemony's expansion had been built upon the conquest of numerous worlds, each presenting unique challenges and defensive capabilities. Yet Earth appeared to offer no resistance whatsoever, despite intelligence suggesting its inhabitants possessed a remarkable capacity for adaptation and warfare. Maintain our current position at the system's edge, she commanded. Deploy the sensor probes for detailed scanning. I want to know everything about this world before we proceed. As her crew implemented her orders, Zarath found herself studying the personnel files of the expedition's xenobiological specialist, Dr. Sarah Chen. The human scientist had been captured during a skirmish in the Proxima sector 6 months ago, and her interrogation had provided valuable intelligence about Earth's location and capabilities. Yet something about the woman's defiant demeanor during questioning had impressed Zarath in ways she didn't fully understand. The commander's thoughts were interrupted by an urgent alert from the communications station. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It appears to be directed specifically at our fleet. Zarath's eyes widened slightly. Put it through. The main view screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at a middle-aged human male in what appeared to be a simple blue uniform. Behind him, others moved with purposeful efficiency across what looked like a command center, though its technology appeared surprisingly sophisticated compared to their initial scans. To the vessels currently positioned at our system's edge, the human began, his voice calm and steady. I am Admiral Marcus Reeves of Earth Defense Command. We are aware of your presence and extend an invitation for diplomatic dialogue before any misunderstandings occur. The bridge crew exchanged glances of surprise. Vextar leaned closer to Zarath and whispered, how could they detect us at this range with primitive technology? Before Zarath could respond, Admiral Reeves continued speaking as if he had heard the question. We understand your sensors show our world as relatively defenseless, and in many ways that assessment is accurate. However, we believe in the value of peaceful first contact and hope to discuss matters of mutual benefit rather than engage in unnecessary conflict. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Zarath stared at the now blank screen, her mind racing through possibilities. Either this was an elaborate bluff by a desperate civilization, or Earth possessed capabilities far beyond what their scans suggested. Analysis, she commanded sharply. The transmission originated from the planet's northern continent, reported the communications officer. However, Commander, the signal was transmitted on frequencies we use for our own quantum communications. They shouldn't have access to that technology. Furthermore, added Vextar, consulting his tactical displays, I'm detecting anomalous readings from several locations across the planet. Energy signatures that weren't present in our initial scans are now becoming visible, as if they're deliberately revealing previously hidden installations. Zarath felt a familiar thrill run through her, the electric anticipation of a challenge worthy of her skills. Bring us closer but maintain defensive posture. And have Dr. Chen brought to the bridge. I want her perspective on this development. As the massive Kytherian fleet began its careful advance toward Earth, hidden sensors throughout the solar system tracked their movement. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, in bunkers and facilities that existed far below the notice of casual observation, generations of human preparation came online. The appearance of defenselessness had been carefully cultivated, a strategic deception born from humanity's hard-learned understanding that sometimes the best defense was to be underestimated. In a command bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, Admiral Reeves studied the approaching alien fleet through instruments that had been watching the stars for decades, waiting for this moment. Status report, he commanded, his earlier diplomatic calm replaced by military precision. All Sentinel stations report ready, responded Colonel Martinez, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. The Lazarus Protocol is armed and awaiting your authorization. Guardian fleet status? Standing by in deep orbit positions. They remain undetected. Admiral Reeves nodded grimly. Humanity had learned hard lessons from their previous encounters with alien scouts and probe vessels over the past 50 years. While maintaining the appearance of a primitive, divided world, they had secretly unified under a single command structure dedicated to planetary defense. The cost had been enormous, requiring sacrifices and technological leaps that had pushed human science to its absolute limits. Aboard the Void Sovereign, Dr. Sarah Chen was escorted onto the bridge under guard, her wrists bound with energy restraints that hummed softly with contained power. Despite her captivity, she maintained an upright posture and clear gaze that spoke of unbroken spirit. Zarath studied the human scientist with newfound interest, noting details she had overlooked during their previous encounters. Dr. Chen, Zarath said formally, your planet has just demonstrated capabilities that our initial scans suggested they didn't possess. Care to explain? Sarah met the alien commander's gaze steadily. What would you like me to explain? That humanity learned to be cautious after our first contact experiences? That we understand the value of strategic deception? Or that we've been preparing for visitors like you for longer than you might imagine? You speak as if you expected us specifically. Not you specifically, Sarah replied, her tone remaining carefully neutral. But we knew that eventually someone would come. The galaxy is too vast and too populated for Earth to remain hidden forever. We chose to be ready rather than helpless. Zarath found herself oddly impressed by the human's composure. Most species either cowered or blustered when faced with Kytherian military might, but Sarah displayed neither fear nor false bravado. Instead, she radiated a quiet confidence that suggested reserves of strength Zarath was only beginning to appreciate. Commander, Vextar interrupted urgently, our sensor probes are reporting massive energy signatures emerging throughout the system. Whatever they've been hiding, they're revealing it now. The main tactical display updated continuously as new contacts appeared across the solar system. Massive installations hidden within asteroids began transmitting powerful energy signatures. Orbital platforms that had masqueraded as space debris suddenly came online with sophisticated sensor arrays and weapon systems. Most shocking of all, 3 enormous vessels began emerging from behind the gas giant Jupiter, their size rivaling the largest ships in the Kytherian fleet. Impossible, breathed Vextar. Those ships, they're using our own stealth technology. How could they have developed it independently? Sarah's lips curved in a slight smile. Did you think you were the first alien species to visit our system? Or that previous visitors all left empty-handed? Zarath felt a chill of realization. You've been studying us. For how long? Long enough to understand that diplomatic contact was preferable to the alternative, Sarah replied. Long enough to prepare accordingly. The communication system chimed again, and Admiral Reeves appeared on the screen once more. This time, the background showed a sophisticated command center that would have looked at home aboard any Kytherian vessel. Commander Zarath of the Void Sovereign, he began, causing surprised murmurs across the bridge, we have monitored your fleet's approach and identified your flagship. We mean you no harm, but we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. Will you consider a face-to-face meeting to discuss our mutual interests? Zarath stared at the screen, her mind reeling from the implications. Not only did Earth possess hidden defensive capabilities, but they had identified her personally and knew details about her ship that should have been classified information. The careful intelligence gathering this suggested spoke of a level of preparation and capability that transformed the entire situation. "How do they know so much about us?" she asked Sarah directly. "Humanity learns quickly when survival is at stake," the scientist replied. "We've had visitors before and we've learned from each encounter. Some were peaceful, others less so. We decided it was better to be prepared for both possibilities." Through the view screen, they watched as one of the massive human vessels moved into a closer orbit around Earth. Its design was clearly influenced by multiple alien technologies but adapted in uniquely human ways. The ship bristled with weapon systems that seemed somehow familiar yet distinctly different from standard galactic configurations. "Commander," reported the sensor officer, "that vessel is approximately 2 kilometers in length and appears to be heavily armed. Its energy signature suggests weapons capable of significant damage to our ships." Zareth made a decision that surprised everyone on the bridge, including herself. "Signal the fleet to maintain position but stand down from aggressive posture. Open a channel to Admiral Reeves." When the connection established, she looked directly into the human's eyes across the vastness of space. "Admiral, I accept your invitation for diplomatic discussion. However, I must inform you that my government expects certain outcomes from this expedition." Admiral Reeves nodded gravely. "We understand the position you're in, Commander. That's precisely why we believe a meeting would be beneficial to all parties. We have a proposal that might serve everyone's interests better than the alternatives." As the two fleets faced each other across the darkness of space, neither fully understanding the other's capabilities or intentions, the foundations were being laid for something unprecedented in galactic history. The Kytherian hegemony had never encountered a species that combined apparent vulnerability with hidden strength so effectively, while humanity had never faced a test of their carefully prepared defenses on such a scale. Zareth found herself studying Sarah Chen's face, searching for clues about the human capacity for both strategic thinking and genuine cooperation. In the scientist's steady gaze, she glimpsed something that intrigued her beyond mere tactical consideration, a depth of character and strength of will that resonated with her own warrior spirit. "Dr. Chen," she said quietly, "if I were to meet with your Admiral Reeves, would you be willing to accompany me as a liaison?" Sarah considered the request carefully. "If it would help prevent unnecessary bloodshed and find a path forward that respects both our peoples, yes. But I would need assurances about my status and treatment." "You would be treated as an honored diplomatic representative," Zareth replied, surprising herself with the sincerity in her voice. As the two women looked at each other across the vast divide of species, culture, and circumstance, neither could foresee how this moment would reshape not only the immediate crisis but the future relationship between their worlds. The dance of diplomacy, strategy, and personal connection was about to begin in earnest, with the fate of both civilizations hanging in the balance. The stars watched silently as ancient patterns of conquest and submission gave way to something entirely new, the possibility of genuine partnership born from mutual respect and the recognition that strength could take many forms, not all of them immediately visible to those who looked only for familiar patterns of power. The diplomatic meeting took place aboard the human vessel Prometheus, a massive ship that dwarfed even Zareth's flagship when seen up close. As the Kytherian shuttle approached the docking bay, Zareth found herself studying the ship's hull through the viewports, noting how human engineers had seamlessly integrated technologies from multiple alien civilizations into something uniquely their own. Beside her, Sarah Chin sat unrestrained for the first time in months, having been granted full diplomatic immunity for the negotiations. "Your ship is impressive," Zareth admitted as they passed through what appeared to be multiple layers of defensive screening. "How long did it take your species to build vessels of this caliber?" "The Prometheus took 8 years to construct," Sarah replied, watching familiar corridors pass by through the shuttle's viewports. "But the research and development that made her possible took nearly 50 years. We've been building toward this moment for a long time, Commander." When they finally met Admiral Reeves in person, Zareth was struck by the human's presence. He stood with quiet confidence in a conference room that managed to be both functional and elegant, its design incorporating elements that seemed calculated to put multiple species at ease. The Admiral was accompanied by a small delegation including military advisors and what appeared to be xenobiological specialists. "Commander Zareth," Admiral Reeves said, offering a respectful bow that acknowledged her rank without suggesting subservience. "Welcome aboard the Prometheus. I hope this meeting will mark the beginning of a more positive relationship between our peoples." "Admiral," Zareth replied formally, though she found herself oddly impressed by the humans' directness. "I must be honest with you. My government sent this fleet to assess Earth's potential for incorporation into the hegemony. Your hidden capabilities have complicated that mission considerably." "We understand the position you're in," Admiral Reeves responded, gesturing for everyone to be seated around a circular table that placed no one at the head. "We've encountered similar situations with other species in the past. That experience has taught us that there are usually alternatives to conquest that benefit everyone involved." As the formal negotiations began, Zareth learned details about Earth's history that her intelligence reports had missed entirely. Humanity's first contact with alien life had occurred nearly 70 years ago, when a damaged exploration vessel from the Altarian Republic had crash-landed in the Pacific Ocean. Instead of attempting to capture or exploit the survivors, humans had provided medical assistance and helped repair their ship. That first contact established a principle that has guided our interactions ever since, explained Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's lead xenobiologist. "We believe that the galaxy is vast enough for multiple civilizations to coexist peacefully, and that cooperation produces better outcomes than conquest." "Yet you've clearly been preparing for military conflict," Zareth observed, studying the tactical displays that showed Earth's defensive network in detail. "Because not every species we've encountered has shared our philosophy," Admiral Reeves replied grimly. "We've learned that preparedness is the foundation of successful diplomacy. Peaceful intentions mean nothing if you lack the strength to defend them." Sarah leaned forward slightly, catching Zareth's attention. "Commander, may I ask what your hegemony hopes to gain from Earth? Understanding your objectives might help us find mutually beneficial alternatives." Zareth considered the question carefully. In truth, the hegemony's expansion had been driven more by momentum than genuine need. They possessed abundant resources and technology, but their culture had become built around the conquest and integration of other worlds. Resources, strategic position, and population. Population. Admiral Reeves asked. "Your species has demonstrated remarkable adaptability and innovation," Zareth explained, finding herself speaking more honestly than she had intended. "Those qualities are highly valued by the hegemony. We don't simply conquer worlds, Admiral. We integrate their best elements into our civilization." A new voice entered the conversation from an unexpected source. "What if we could offer you those things without conquest?" Everyone turned to look at Sarah, who had spoken with quiet intensity. "Commander, you've seen what humanity can accomplish when we're united in purpose. What if instead of trying to integrate us into your civilization, you considered partnership?" Before Zareth could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Admiral Reeves immediately activated a communication link, his expression growing grave as he listened to the urgent reports. "Commander," he said, turning to Zareth with visible concern, "we're detecting multiple hyperspace signatures at the edge of our system. Unknown vessels, configuration suggests possible hegemony design but much larger than your current fleet." Zareth felt a chill of realization. The Dreadnought Division. My superiors must have decided to ensure the mission's success. She looked around the table at the human faces, seeing their expressions shift from diplomatic caution to grim determination. "Admiral, those ships carry enough firepower to sterilize your planet. They're not here for conquest, they're here for complete subjugation." The conference room fell silent except for the continued sounds of the ship's crew responding to the new threat. Sarah reached across the table, her hand briefly touching Zareth's arm. "How long do we have?" "Perhaps 6 hours before they reach optimal firing position," Zareth replied, surprised by the comfort she drew from the human woman's touch. "Commander Vexmar leads the Dreadnought Division. He's less interested in diplomatic solutions than I am." Admiral Reeves stood quickly. "Then we have a choice to make and we need to make it fast. Commander, are you willing to help us face this threat together, or should we prepare to fight both your fleet and the incoming dreadnoughts?" Zareth found herself at a crossroads that would define not only her career but her understanding of herself. The easy path was to rejoin her fleet and await the arrival of overwhelming force. The difficult path meant taking a stand against her own government's methods, risking everything on the possibility that these humans represented something worth preserving. Sarah's voice broke through her internal struggle. "Commander, in all your years of conquest, have you ever found a civilization that impressed you as much as humanity has today?" The question struck deeper than Zareth had expected. In 3 centuries of military service, she had witnessed the fall of dozens of worlds, each unique in their own way but ultimately following predictable patterns of resistance and eventual submission. Earth was different. Humanity was different. They had achieved something unprecedented. Real preparedness combined with genuine diplomatic intent. "No," she answered quietly. "Never." "Then perhaps it's time to try a different approach," Admiral Reeves suggested. "We have 6 hours to show the galaxy that conquest and cooperation can coexist. Will you help us?" Zareth made a decision that surprised everyone in the room, including herself. She activated her personal communicator and opened a channel to her flagship. "Lieutenant Vextar, this is Commander Zareth. You are to immediately begin defensive coordination with the human fleet. We are allies as of this moment." The shocked silence from her bridge was almost audible through the communicator before Vextar responded with professional discipline. "Understood, Commander. Orders received and acknowledged." "Admiral," Zareth said, turning back to the human leader, "my ships are at your disposal. But I must warn you, the Dreadnought Division represents military capability beyond anything we've discussed today. Even with our combined forces, this will be an extremely difficult battle." "We've faced difficult odds before," Admiral Reeves replied with quiet confidence. "And we've learned that the key to victory isn't always superior firepower, sometimes it's superior strategy." Over the following hours, as the two fleets prepared for battle, Zareth found herself working closely with human strategists and engineers. Their approach to military planning was unlike anything she had encountered before. Where Kytherian doctrine emphasized overwhelming force and traditional tactics, humans favored adaptability and unconventional solutions. Sarah served as a bridge between the two military cultures, her scientific background and months aboard Kytherian ships giving her unique insights into both technologies. As they worked together, Zareth found herself drawn not only to the human woman's intelligence but to her unwavering commitment to finding peaceful solutions even in the face of overwhelming violence. "The dreadnoughts will expect us to meet them with conventional ship-to-ship combat," Sarah explained as they reviewed tactical projections. "What if we don't give them what they expect?" "Explain," Zareth requested, noting how the human scientists and military officers worked together with seamless cooperation. "Earth's defensive network isn't just about big ships and powerful weapons," Admiral Reeves said, calling up new displays that showed the true extent of humanity's preparations. "We've spent decades developing what we call asymmetric defense strategies, ways to turn our apparent weaknesses into advantages." The plan that emerged was audacious beyond anything Zareth could have imagined. Instead of meeting the dreadnoughts in open battle, they would use Earth's solar system itself as a weapon. Hidden installations throughout the asteroid belt would create a coordinated gravity well that would pull the attacking ships into a carefully prepared kill zone. Meanwhile, the combined fleet would use hit-and-run tactics to weaken the enemy formation before the trap was sprung. "This requires perfect timing and coordination," Zareth observed. "One miscalculation and both our fleets will be destroyed along with the dreadnoughts." "Sometimes the greatest victories require the greatest risks," Sarah replied, her eyes meeting Zareth's with an intensity that spoke of more than just strategic planning. As the final preparations were completed, Zareth found herself alone with Sarah in the Prometheus's observation deck, watching the stars will slowly pass through the transparent aluminum viewports. The sight of her own ships working alongside human vessels still seemed surreal, but it also felt strangely right. "Are you having second thoughts?" Sarah asked, joining her at the viewport. "About the battle?" "No." "About the decision to ally with humanity?" "Also no." Zareth turned to face the human woman, struck by how natural it felt to share her thoughts with someone from another species. "I am having thoughts about what comes after, assuming we survive." "What kind of thoughts?" Zareth hesitated, then decided on honesty. "Thoughts about whether a Kytherian commander and a human scientist could find common ground that extends beyond military cooperation." Sarah's response was a smile that transformed her entire face, making her look younger and somehow more radiant. "I think we've already found quite a bit of common ground, don't you?" Before either could say more, the ship's intercom activated with Admiral Reeves' voice. "All stations, this is Admiral Reeves. The Dreadnought Division has entered our outer system. Operation Lighthouse is now active. All personnel to battle stations." As alarms echoed through the ship and the crew moved to their positions with practiced efficiency, Zareth and Sarah looked at each other one more time. Without words, they both understood that the next few hours would determine not only the fate of Earth and the Kytherian hegemony, but the possibility of something entirely new emerging from the ashes of old conflicts. The battle was about to begin, and with it, the first real test of whether two very different civilizations could truly stand together against a common threat. In the depths of space, ancient patterns of conquest and submission were about to give way to something unprecedented. A partnership born of mutual respect, shared courage, and the growing connection between two remarkable women who had found in each other the strength to challenge the very foundations of galactic politics. The stars watched silently as the future balanced on the edge of a knife, waiting to see whether wisdom or tradition would prevail in the darkness between worlds.